invoice collected. Here's another one. Again, subtotal for looms. Serial number here, but also correlates to, again, the label on the actual physical loom. This one's broken down: engine, ECU, cabin, trunk, left, right, rear. So subtotal for all these, $26,664. We go down to subtotal for terminations and additional project parts. Now here, you see there's terminations, some Bosch P50 coils. There's nothing super crazy here. The only sort of interesting one is this Motec waypoint programming. What that is if you have a Motec dash and you want to program the shift lights, well, I'll talk more about that later. Additional project parts, 2,800. Then we go down to subtotal for design and programming. This is more in line with what a typical design and programming charge would be. In this case, it's 5,900. So 4,200, 4,250 in design. And then configuration, programming config of electronics, bench testing, another 1,700. So 5,950 for that. And then here, this was a somewhat in a hurry project. So inbound shipping, a bunch more shipping. Shipping costs just on this project is $1,970 just for shipping. But you see, next day, 2 days. And one thing to remember too about all these shipping charges is that this stuff is all expensive. Okay, so the insurance cost of moving really, really expensive things around, all right, is not cheap. Insurance cost is a very, very big driver in terms of the shipping cost. So when you're trying to express things out, especially stuff that maybe the buyer is using for the project and shipping it to you for, testing, for different terminations, I mean, a lot of this stuff is, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 boxes. So what you end up having to do is you got to call UPS Capital, for example, which we use UPS. You got to sign up with UPS Capital. You have a discussion with UPS Capital to let them know you're shipping expensive stuff. You sign some paperwork, and UPS Capital basically wants to make sure that they know you're packaging all these things up properly. What kind of boxes, what kind of packaging system do you have? In case anything is ever damaged or lost, you have a much, much better likely of getting that insurance claim handled better by being a part of UPS Capital instead of just a regular UPS account. You actually get a discounted rate on the insurance per $100, okay? So if you're shipping expensive stuff around and you're not part of UPS Capital, it's free of charge, so do it. All right, now on this invoice here, the total, $39,000, oh, I didn't highlight it, $39,067.20. And again, payment collected. Okay, now let's go to the last one. So same setup, subtotal for loom package. We have all these different primary looms. In this case, engine, ECU, cabin, trunk, rear, left rear, right rear, front axle, clutch loom, gearbox loom. Subtotal for all these, $34,085. We go down to the next section. This one looks like we built a bunch of battery cables along with terminating some things. So 3 terms, 3 battery cables, $1,560. And then we go back here to additional project parts. Again, some Motec pressure sensor here. Looks like 5 of them. But outside of that, this is not any real hardware, okay? $1,750. And we come back over here to subtotal for design, reverse engineering, programming. In this case, Reverse engineering to retain full functionality of switch panel, steering wheel, water pump, ABS, CAN bus, tail lights, CAN implementation of Bosch ABS, multi-position switch. This is what happens when buyers send parts to a loom manufacturer and say, hey, make all this existing stuff work that I have on the car, and they don't send any information about how it works. To make that one line item, which includes several different things, it's 53 hours. At the time, our labor rate was 100 an hour for that, so 53.81 just in figuring out reverse engineering. We have another design, point to point. You know, again, this is more representative of design cost. So in this case, we've got the 5,300 in reverse engineering, and then another 3,200 and almost 6,000. So 14,500 in design reverse engineering. Here we got some more inbound shipping. This looks like this one was in a hurry as well, which is about typical. Most folks bring the wiring people in last, or what the wiring folks need to build the wiring. They don't have all the information until it gets pretty tight in the timeline. Another whole page of outbound shipping. Another couple. So shipping here, even more than the last one. $2,042. That brings us a total here for all this of $54,388. Famous in credits, $54,388 paid. So these looms get expensive, guys. Most of these projects, there are a lot of time and labor hours. You know, so you're looking at between these projects here, these three, I mean, these are hundreds of hours of labor. My biggest advice to the folks that are building, don't give away your time. The parts are, you know, the parts are the parts. I'll talk more about how to keep track of that, why it's problematic, but you know, it's tough to do all of it. I have some other systems that I'll show you guys on how, you know, we were keeping track, and share this with you guys, because you know, my hope is that really by sharing this stuff, folks that are in this business and folks that are buying this type of loom, you know, just to help the sales cycle run more effectively, and so people aren't surprised. You know, look guys, we know when we were building these looms that these loom packages were expensive, but one thing to consider here is that even if there's a, you know, $40,000, $30,000, $60,000 bill for these looms, right? I can tell you all of these cars here that these loom packages belong to were probably in the range of, you know, $750,000 to over $1 million in build. So when you have, you know, $100,000 engines, you know, wired up to very expensive chassis with tons and tons and tons of labor time in their own right to build the car, minus the wiring, you know, everything these wires hooked up to was expensive. You know, these projects here don't have the real Motec hardware on them, which we used, you know, for most of the projects. But, you know, so all these wires are hooking up to, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, not including the engine. You know, just to try and put some things into a perspective. And this is a conversation I've had with a lot of the folks that come in person to me, or, you know, some of the guys that I've talked to on the phone. And if there's any information here that you guys want to know about, you know, I know this video is long, but look, it's taken years and years and years to be able to share this with you guys confidently, because we did it, okay? So don't, you know, there's a lot going on here with these invoices, but, you know, you've got to make sure that you bill and account for these loom builds properly, you know, so that way keeps the wheels on the bus go round and round, and the buyers have a better expectation of what they're getting and can help them plan appropriately better. So if you guys have any questions or have any topics on these invoices that you want me to, you know, dig deeper on, let me know in the comments, whatever, and I'll, you know, do my best to touch on them in the future, because again, this is an area like I could probably, you know, I could speak for, you know, a day easy on this stuff right here. So let me know what you guys want to know, and let's lift up the skirt. So see you.